thank you, Amelia and Olivia, for asking me to participate today. And I'd like to thank Senator Capito, Ron Hinton, and Clayton Birch for also participating. It's good to be with everybody. I have my staff listening right now, and we would like to be able to help any way possible. If you need any assistance whatsoever, just call or dial 304-342-5855. That's 304-342-5855, and someone from my staff will help you any way humanly possible. You know, when I was governor, along with Gail being first lady, we worked so hard on education because it was a priority. Gail being a lifelong educator, trust me, it was morning, noon, and night, and we knew that education was the way to go for West Virginia. And we always said make the 5 promises to every child. Every adult should make these promises to every child. And unconditional love in their life, a safe place to call home, a healthy start, nutritional diet, and be taught a livable skill. And hopefully every child will grow to be a loving, caring adult and give something back. If we do that, then we've succeeded. Access to reliable broadband is crucial to the 21st century. I've said this many times. If your great-grandparents or grandparents in the 1930s lived in rural West Virginia or rural America, they probably didn't have electricity. And then Franklin Roosevelt becomes president, and we have the rural electrification. And they start putting basic electricity in every little nook and cranny, in every hollow and road up every valley, and everyone became electrified. And that changed America. Well, I'm telling you, today in the 21st century, we still don't have connectivity throughout every nook and cranny, every hollow, every valley, every river, or every home does not have that connectivity. For us to succeed, it has to be the same undertaking as we did in the 1930s, and we can be successful. We've got the template right now, which is basically the CoOps. CoOps were used back in the 1930s. CoOps are still in place. One of the most successful CoOps we have right now is over in Hardy County, which is Hardy Connect. They do a tremendous job. If you're looking back at what we've been able to do, working with my colleagues, Senator Capito, and all of our colleagues, especially her and I have been so honored to be on appropriations together. There's only one other state that has both members on appropriation, which I think is a tremendous asset for our state, because we can look at the areas that we know that have the desires and have the need, and they'll make that their highest priority. They'll talk to Shelley, talk to me, we get together, and we both have that same ask, and things can happen, and that's what we work for. We secured $570 million appropriation package for Reconnect program, as well as the $5 million in new broadband funding from ARC for distressed counties in North and North Central Appalachia. We were also able to secure $18.7 million grant through the Reconnect program that'll improve rural broadband for more than 6,300 rural households in Harrison, Doddridge, Lewis, Barber, and Upshur counties. A $3 million grant has been provided to Hampshire County and Hardy Telecommunications to expand broadband access to an estimated 600 homes and businesses and farms in that area. Adequate access to broadband, I don't need to tell you, it's crucial to education of our West Virginia students, and enables our teachers to be able to teach. We have telehealth, and now we have teleteach. Our teachers have adapted, but when they're not connected, it makes it hard for our students to be able, during this pandemic, to get the necessary education that they need. I introduced $1.7 million in funding over the next 2 years for 14 counties with significant federal lands through the Secure Rural Schools program. To begin the year, we introduced Connect Rural Schools Act to help close the digital disconnect for rural students. This bipartisan legislation ensures that broadband technologies are accessible for funding from the existing secure rural schools. It's an important step towards eliminating the homework gap, and we know that's critical, and guaranteeing every student access to the internet when they leave school. So many of them have to drive back and park in front with their parents in order to do their homework. I have partnered with Commissioner Rosenworcel, FCC Commissioner Rosenworcel, to close the homework gap and showing her how dire the connectivity issue is in our state. She came in and we visited community centers and local high schools like the Lewis County School. Looking ahead, I'm going to focus my energy on creating accurate maps. I sued the FCC. They were saying that we were over 90% covered. I knew we weren't. This goes way back, and I said we start taking a speed test. Last week, the FCC released the 2020 Broadband Deployment Report, which we found, and I found to be a stark reminder of how far we still have to go to close the digital divide. This report claimed that 98% of West Virginia has access to fixed broadband or mobile LTE coverage. Now, if you're a West Virginia, you know that's not true. West Virginia across our state know to even suggest that would be committing a fraud. Last year, we started working in my office, started working with West Virginians to conduct their own speed test to prove the FCC maps are wrong. Since then, West Virginians have submitted more than 437 speed tests to FCC that were submitted to me from West Virginians. They proved the FCC maps are wrong, and we stopped the $4 billion of funding, the rural broadband funding that would have gone out, which would have been basically misplaced, and we would have not gotten the needed money we needed or our fair share. After visiting Lewis County, the students and Commissioner Rosenworcel to discuss broadband connectivity last year, we thought it was important to partner with them again. So I'm going to launch an important initiative with the Minutemen, once again, to bridge the digital divide. So we're asking community to conduct speed tests via my website so we can show the FCC that their maps are wrong. So you can get on our website and go right to speed test, and it'll basically walk you through a very simple ways you can test your own home in your own area. I'm going to continue to partner with the schools into the future to encourage civic engagement amongst our students and throughout the towns. It's pivotal for our students to remain connected to the internet away from school, especially during these times. Students who lack internet access at home risk falling behind on schoolwork, as well as being unable to learn internet skills at a young age. So it can put students at a disadvantage in the future. While lack of reliable broadband access has often been presented as a long-term infrastructure issue, our students are truly being left behind today. The more time that we waste sending money to the wrong places because of the inaccurate maps, the more time we lose to catch up. And there's another $20 billion ready to be sent out the door. And we have got to fight to make sure these maps are accurate, that West Virginia gets taken care of. We think that can be done. So we're looking forward to working with everybody. But I can tell you the cornerstone of all of this is connectivity for education in the 21st century, for us to have the skill sets and our workforce to have the skill sets they need for us to be successful and also be competitive. So with that, I'm happy to open up to any questions you may have, and hopefully I can answer.
Thank you so much, Senator Manchin, for that very informative talk. And our first question for today is, can the Education Alliance send out more information about how I can submit a speed test from home?
Oh, absolutely. If you get on my website, which is manchin.senate.gov, it's very easily and very simple to do. There's a couple apps that you can go to, whatever one you're familiar with. If not, they've even taught me how to do it. So if they've taught me how to do it, trust me, most people will be able to navigate this very, very easily. But it's unbelievable, the minimums that you need to have. I have Wes Kungle, who's been heading that up in my office. I think Wes is on the line here. But if you'll just call our office, 304-342-5855, Wes and our team will walk you right through doing your own speed test in your own home. We recommend doing the speed test in the evening. But now with everybody being home, you can do them almost any time of the day because everybody's been sheltered in. But in the evenings when people were at school or working, there was more demand put on it, and its speed tests were more accurate from 5:30 to 7:30 than any other time. But right now, I would assume that any time would be fine to get an accurate speed test.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Our second question is from a Raleigh County teacher, and she asked, are there any plans to create a co-op in southern West Virginia?
Well, co-ops, the co-ops need to be. We know that's been a tremendous template that basically helped our country back in a generation or a decade ago become electrified. And you're not going to force every large carrier to go up every little nook and cranny and hook somebody up because it's not profitable for them. Their cost is more than what the return is. They just won't do it. But co-ops can bundle and do what they're doing. And that's why the The co-op over in Hardy County has been one of the most successful. I know Shelley knows them well also. They're just unbelievable. I've had so many businesses that rather hook up with them, they would make some of the major carriers because they're more attentive. They know their clientele, they know their area, and they basically are serving them without having to rely on return on investment for the investors and shareholders. So yes, we can help them set that up if it's not. If there's not one in place, that a co-op can be done. We have the Broadband Council. I'm sure they can help with that. We'd be happy to help also in trying to organize a co-op that would serve a lot of rural southern West Virginia.
Great, thank you so much. And our last question for Senator Manchin is, what is the most important thing communities can do to help move this issue forward?
I think basically communicating with all of us in the public offices, from the governor's office to the senator's office, mine and Shelley's, to the congressional office, to your state senators, to everybody that you know that has a public office that is so horrible that you do not have connectivity, you do not have any type of speed whatsoever, you can't do the basic functions that other people take for granted. Let me give you an example. During this pandemic, people were told to stay in. And the elderly and the most vulnerable with underlying health conditions should not travel. Well, how are they going to get their health care? Everyone says, well, we'll do telehealth. Telehealth is fine if you have connectivity. If you don't have connectivity, how do you get your health care? The doctors were not getting reimbursed for phone. I mean, we were doing audio health, if you will, because they weren't able to connect. The people that they served didn't have connectivity and they couldn't do telehealth with them. So they had to do it over the telephone. Well, the doctors were taking the same amount of time as doing telehealth and weren't getting reimbursed. So we were able to fight and get that changed within the last 2 to 3 weeks to where they're getting paid the same now for audio health as you would for telehealth. But telehealth, I think, is so much more helpful and safer for the patient that can basically see a visual with just hearing more so than just hearing an audio. So that gives you one example of why it is so important and why we need to have it. But during this pandemic time, how many educators are having a hard time connecting with their students who aren't connected? How are they getting the same opportunities that other students are that lived in areas that have good connectivity? It's just not fair. And they're going to fall further behind. That's why it's needed. And that's why we've got to fight and make sure it's connectivity is going to be all over our state and be capable of giving the necessary services that people are depending on. And it's become something now that we've taken for granted. If you live in an area where you have connectivity, think of a person who doesn't, and they can't, and during these horrible times, be able to keep up or even connect. So we're going to do all we can. I think it's just imperative. If you want to succeed in the 21st century, if you want West Virginia to be able to compete and be able to attract and keep our young and grow our own economy, we better put this as the highest priority we have right now, or we will be left behind.
Thank you, Senator Manchin, for your leadership on this issue, for helping bring those federal dollars to West Virginia, for engaging communities and being active in solutions and taking part in the speed test. We can tell you by the many questions that we've received here, there is a lot of interest in continuing this conversation. So again, we'd like to just thank you for being part of the Ed Talk today. And we look forward to working with you to move this issue forward.
Okay, well, we'll make sure that I'll have Wes get a hold of you all and make sure that the speed test and the different variations and how we can assist and help you, because that helps us immensely, and it gives Shelley and I a little bit of firepower to go to the FCC and Chairman Pai.
Absolutely.